Oh, definitely. They've got to show a lot of pride and a lot of character. They've been very dismal over the last two games, and that's not been rude. Having two test matches which don't last more than 3 days, they'll be very disappointed about it. So they'll want to go out there, turn things around and show that they can actually play on England conditions. And they've got a lot to play for. It is pride. But they've also got to learn how to play on these English conditions, and they've had another week or week and a half off where they can adjust to these conditions, and they've got to show their supporters that they're able to change and able to adapt to these conditions. And I think Ian Chappell earlier on in the week was right that it's exciting about where the game of cricket's going, how batsmen play. But they still don't know the art of batting, and that's on moving conditions, seaming conditions. And England have done that well through Alistair Cook and Ian Bell and also Joe Root. Oh, it's exciting. There's going to be new blood in the team, and we've just had an Australia A series over in India where we saw the likes of Joe Burns, Usman Khawaja, and a young bloke called Cameron Bancroft do exceptionally well. So we've got depth in our batting. It's just a matter of these guys being mentally tough and mentally prepared when they get that opportunity to play Test cricket. Joe Burns, Khawaja have had opportunities playing for Australia. So they've had time away from the game at the highest level to work on their mental capacity to see what they need to make sure that they're successful the next time they've got the opportunity. So we've got plenty of depth there. Callum Ferguson is also one that is waiting in the wings. He's a bright talent. And Matthew Wade as well with the keeping depth. So there's a lot of depth there for Australia in the batting department. It's just a matter of whether these guys are willing to take that opportunity with both hands and show the world what they've actually got. I really like the A Tour concept because we want close contests at the international level. And to do that, we've got to prepare players to make sure that they're able to move into those roles straight away. And that's what the Australia A tournaments do, or the A tournaments around the world do. They allow these players to adjust to conditions, to play on foreign conditions, and also play higher level cricket rather than their state cricket or their county cricket or provincial cricket. So they're getting better quality cricket, high quality cricket. But if our players can't go and play county cricket, we've got places over in Australia or conditions over in Australia which we can find conducive to those conditions. And we have our under-19 tournaments and under-17 tournaments down in Tasmania, which are very similar to England conditions, and we use the Duke ball as well. So they're getting a taste of it. Whether we bring that into training or have a training facility down there before we go to the Ashes, where we use Duke balls on seaming tracks where it's very similar to English conditions, well, that's something that our coaching staff and Cricket Australia have to look forward to in their planning for future Ashes series. Look, it's like everything. I don't get too overexcited nowadays. As we talked about earlier on in this series, we can make all these big statements, bold statements, and turn around and say England are going to be number one. Well, they've had a great series on their conditions, and I think all Test teams and all international teams, they struggle when they go overseas at the present moment, and that's something that Trevor Bayliss and Alistair Cook and Andrew Strauss have to sit down and discuss. How are we going to start moving this momentum forward to make sure that we don't just have success on England soil, we have success overseas. They had success a couple of years ago in India, and they've shown that they can do it. They've got a young team led by a fantastic leader in Alistair Cook, and I hope Alistair Cook stays around. Their opening batting, Adam Lyth, I'm a little bit concerned with him. I think he's got the talent. I think he's got the heart. He's got the temperament, or he's got the work ethic. It's just a matter of getting over that hurdle of going from county cricket to international cricket. I think he's been weighed, measured and found wanting against 4 quality bowlers, and you don't get that in county cricket. So he's got a tough time of it to turn things around. So I think that's the only only place where England struggle a little bit at the moment, and also their spinning department. I don't think they have depth in their spinners, and most countries do that. We're pretty lucky in Australia. We've got fairly good depth. But I think England, they're in a good place at the moment. They've got good leaders in Trevor Bayliss and Alistair Cook that are going to hold the egos intact. And when I talk about egos, I'm not being rude there. You get a little bit ahead of yourself. So England have got to think of the present and not do what they did in the past and get too far ahead of themselves. Yeah, well, you're always going to lose experience at some stage, and you've got to move on. And Chris Rogers has shown that he is a formidable opener. He took over from Matthew Hayden and Justin Langer, and he's your typical Australian or typical Test opener. He's very much a Cook mould, and if you're going to play Test cricket, you've got to have someone batting like Chris Rogers and try to bat the whole innings. I think someone like a Joe Burns can come in and do that role. And I hope Australian selectors give someone like a Joe Burns a lot of time to be able to cement his place in the team. And if we look in past history, a lot of players that are successful didn't do well early on, but they were given enough opportunities to be able to succeed at the highest level and get that experience. So hopefully they do that with Joe Burns. So they're really going to miss Chris Rogers' ability to bat most of the innings and to really put a dent in the opposition bowlers and tire them down. Well, probably on that too, I think Chris Rogers complements David Warner as well. The one thing I've liked about David Warner is he's had a fairly good series, David Warner, but he came on the scene as a crash and bash type batsman, but he's tried to adapt his batting to English conditions, and I think he's one of the Australian players in that top order that have really tried to knuckle down and assess the conditions and play appropriately. And I think a lot of the younger players can learn from David Warner, and that's probably why he's been made vice captain as well. He's really shown over the last month that he has got leadership qualities. I wouldn't have given him the captaincy. I think Steve Smith is definitely the man for the job. But I think David Warner is going to move into that vice captaincy role, that leadership role, full of praise, full of experience, and what he's shown over the last month is great. The great ability to be a team man.